So Nimble Neuron has just published a roadmap update, which is, as they put it, a look into the future of Eternal Return. And in this post, they mention a bunch of things that we're going to eventually be seeing changed about the game, including some improved security features, some information about the ranked mode, as well as reconnection, and a bunch of other things. But of course, that's not what anyone wants to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about one thing that's snuck in there that's going to completely change everything about the gameplay of this game. And of course, I'm talking about Quantum Blink. Now, for those who don't actually know what Quantum Blink is going to be, they've hinted that Quantum Blink will likely be a reimagining of the League of Legends summoner skill Flash. Now, what that means is that every character is going to have access to a short distance teleport feature with a long cooldown. Now, historically, in games such as League of Legends, Flash has been basically the core of its gameplay. It's your get into the fight card, it's your get out of jail free card. It's a long cooldown, so you're really punished when you don't have it available. But the thing is, in a game like League of Legends, Flash is already built into its core mechanics and everything is based and balanced around Flash. Now, the question is, can we really just jam a skill like Flash into Eternal Return and have it fit like a glove? And honestly, the community is completely divided on the issue. Now, before I weigh in with my opinion on the issue, I do want to just briefly quote them and tell you what they have in mind for this feature. They say that they'll be implementing a new feature, Quantum Blink. Quantum Blink is a short distance teleport feature with a long cooldown, given to all characters, similar to Flash in League of Legends. Although save plans and builds play a big part in deciding the victories and losses, we want to introduce additional variables through mechanics and outplay potential. Quantum Blink may very likely make a big difference in gameplay patterns. More diverse ways to initiate combat, more ways to weave skills together, Quantum Blink plus a skill, or dodge enemy skills. It's giving more opportunities to some characters that lack lockdown, or chase more potential to secure the kill on their enemies, and diversifying ways to kill enemies by allowing combinations of basic movement features with Quantum Blink. Now, they mentioned that these new changes can always have unforeseen side effects. For example, as Quantum Blink makes it easier to escape, games may slow down. It's important and fun to have dynamic and aggressive gameplay, so we will prepare a number of additional measures to ensure that new features are used aggressively and actively. After the introduction of Quantum Blink, we will quickly try to adjust balance according to the newly improved advantages and disadvantages of each character. Similar to how we increase the weight of the number of kills in solo mode, it will allow us to keep increasing and adjusting modes in the future. We will be able to add effects when killing players, such as decreasing the cooldown of Quantum Blink, recovering HP/SP, etc. Now that we've heard what Nimble Neuron has to say about Quantum Blink, the question I struggle with is, do I actually think that this is good for the game? Do I actually think that this is a feature that enhances the gameplay, that makes the game better overall? And honestly, I'm really just not that sure. After thinking about it for a little bit, I want to say that I've landed on the side of I don't think that the game necessarily needs a mechanic like Quantum Blink. I think that what it's going to end up being, especially for solo play, is a check of whether or not you have it up when you get into a fight. So you're going to have to trade it for almost every engagement. If you get into a fight with somebody and they Quantum Blink away, if you want to ensure that you get that kill, you're going to have to blink after them in order to secure the kill. But then now that you've used your blink to secure a kill, if you come against somebody who decides to third party you, or you just meet maybe a minute later, and they have their blink up and you don't, there's almost no way for you to escape from them, and you're gonna have to just fight them head on. And if you can't win that fight, you're just guaranteed to die. So to me, it just sort of makes solo even less balanced than before. And I know they mentioned they wanted to do something around getting kills will lower the cooldown, and I'm not sure if that is enough of a bonus to make me actually want this in the game. But the thing is that it just doesn't seem like it'll be that fair for solo. It may work in squads or duos, but I don't think it's quite the right mechanic as a fit for solos. With all that being said though, we don't know for sure if this is actually going to be beneficial for the game or not, because we haven't had our chance to play with it and test it on our own. So we can only just speculate as to whether or not this is actually going to be good for the game. And honestly, I just do have my doubts, and I'm not sure if this is going to be something I want to see long term in the game. I think for me to really get behind a change like this, I really need to ask that one golden question, which is, does this enhance the game? Does this make the game better than it was before they added the feature? Or is this just a feature that's being used to try and get people over from League, get people to be familiar with mechanics in the game so they get more acclimated to the game? Is this just a feature to make players feel like they can get out of situations that they should have lost anyways? Is this good for the game? And while I'm currently erring on the side that this probably is not good for the game long term, I do try to keep an open mind to all features and potential changes like this going forward, because honestly, maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they've tested it and it actually plays really well in game, but we're all just sort of having a knee-jerk reaction of not wanting something that's a big change. In any case, I'm going to be going into this change with some complete hesitation. I just don't feel confident in saying that yes, I love this change and yes, I do want it in the game, but I'm also not going to be completely closed-minded to it either. Now, as for the rest of this announcement, there are a few other things mentioned in here that I am actually fairly excited for. They bring up the fact that pretty soon, 3 new characters are going to be getting additional weapons. It's going to be Shukai getting a dagger, Sisela getting access to throw, and Yuki getting access to dual swords. If I had to predict in advance whether or not these are actually going to really change these characters in any significant way, I'd say that the throw going to Sisela is probably the least impactful of the 3. Caltrops is already an extremely powerful tool on Sisela, and the shurikens in general are just sort of better statted than the throw weapons. The only throw weapon that really stands out is Ruthenia Marble, and in my opinion, I don't really see the smokescreen being worth it enough to lose Caltrops to run Ruthenia Marble instead. Now, as for Shukai getting dagger, that's one of the more interesting ones, and honestly it's harder to evaluate on paper. Fangshin Huaji is a really powerful spear, and the spear skill is really powerful when used in combination with his ultimate. It slows his target for a long amount of time and for a significant amount, making it really hard for them to get away from him right when he pops his ult. Now, the dagger skill, however, it does give him the chance for really surprise engages. He'll just appear out of nowhere and just either slow you, knock you airborne, and then just ult immediately. He could be one of the best engagers in the game with this, but it's really hard to say for sure, and we don't even know if it's really worth him losing the spear skill or Fangshin Huaji. Now, as for Yuki getting dual swords, despite the fact that it's a perfect flavor fit for him as a sort of generic anime protagonist archetype character, it's really unclear how dual swords is going to work on Yuki. Because here's the thing, Yuki stuns when he auto attacks somebody with his Q, but if his Q is 2 auto attacks, how is that going to work with that? Is it going to be 2 stuns? Is it only going to be 1 stun? We also don't know if each auto attack is going to consume 2 cufflinks because it's technically applying on-hit effects twice. We just don't know. So depending on how these weird interactions actually work with Yuki, it could be really good, or it could just be really a bad synergistic choice. This remains to be seen, and it's so unsure that we can't really evaluate it right here on paper. But either way, characters getting new weapons is exciting no matter what, so I'm still excited. Now, one more slight thing that is mentioned in these sort of in the future update notes is that they're eventually going to be adjusting characters and weapons as combinations, because it's almost impossible to balance one side or the other without unfairly balancing or buffing or nerfing another part of it. So for example, if you buff Shuriken Hedgen, because Shuriken Hedgen is their example as someone who's been doing very poorly, the question you have to ask yourself is, do I buff Shuriken or do I buff Hedgen? Because currently that's the only way they can do it. And now if you buff Shuriken, you're unfairly buffing characters that are already strong that use Shurikens like Zahir and Sisela. But if you buff Hedgen instead of Shuriken, then you're going to be buffing Bow Hedgen, which is already very good, and you don't necessarily need to buff it that much. So that's the question. If Shuriken Hedgen is such a terrible combination that it can't do anything and is traditionally terrible, how do you go about balancing that? And so Nimble Neuron's solution is that they're going to be balancing certain specific weapon and character combinations, which I guess is the only way you could really do it. but it will make things a little bit more complicated going forward. They also said that since they're already balancing per game mode, having balance that's per game mode, per weapon, per character, and per weapon character combination might just be a lot of very specific balancing that a new player getting into the game may just have no idea what the stats of the character they want to play are in any given Q or weapon combination. So that's something that they have to struggle with, is how do we make it flow between all Qs, flow between all weapons without confusing the hell out of everyone playing the game. And yeah, that just about covers it for this future roadmap update. A lot of interesting features. We are seeing that ranked and reconnection is being pushed back a little bit because they need to do a little bit more work on it. And at the end of the day, Quantum Blink. Is this the way forward for the game, or is this just a mistake? If you have an opinion on it, please let me know, because I'm actually super curious what the whole community thinks about Quantum Blink in general. I personally, my final thoughts are that I think it probably isn't a good way for the game to go, but I'm still open-minded in case it turns out to be pretty good and I was just wrong on paper. In any case, I want to know what you guys think, so please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.